Let me just start with what I think we would probably all agree on. Regardless of whatever work you do, whether it's your spiritual work, your work at life, your work at workplaces, probably all of you would agree that if you can build the kind of organizations that find, keep, employ, engage, develop the best people, I mean, if you can really do that, not just say that, but actually execute that, then you'll have built for your organization a sustainable edge. I mean, in business world, it's a sustainable competitive edge. The wonderful thing about a culture is that it's so complicated. It's made up of so many different actions and interactions between employee to employee, employee to manager, manager to leader, that if you've really built a strong one, I mean a truly powerful one, then no one can steal it. All they can do is envy it, look over the wall and wonder what on earth it is that you're doing to get people so engaged. With that in mind, I want to share just two things with you this afternoon. One, I want to share with you some data that suggests that although we know it's important to engage, oh, there's a whole nother level up here. Who knew that? Hi, everybody. Hi. I'm going to speak to you, sir, right up there. Prepare, prepare, prepare. You know, they always say that, don't they? With that in mind, two things. One, I'm going to share with you data which suggests that although we know it's important to engage our people, we actually do kind of a rotten job of it, both here in the United States and around the world. That's at least according to the people that are supposed to be engaged. Second, and most importantly, of course, I want to offer some explanations as to what we can do differently in order to do a better job of really engaging our folks. Let's start with managing. Let's just first agree on what a manager does, by the way. What does a great manager do? Do they build teams? Do they enforce quality, build standards, set standards, ensure good customer? What does a manager do? Well, from all the managers I've had the great good fortune to interview, I would distill it down to this. This is the chief responsibility of a manager. That's the job of a manager. A great manager turns one person's talent into performance. If you're good as a manager, you're good because people work harder for you than they would for somebody else. If they don't work harder for you than they would for someone else, get out of management. You're in the way. The analogy here is that a manager's job is a catalyst job. If you're good as a manager, it's because you speed up the reaction between the talent of the employee and the goals or the mission of the organization. If you do that well, you're a great manager. Yes, you might build good teams and you might ensure good customer service and so on, but those are outcomes. The starting point is the talent of the employee, and your thoughts, your focus is about how to set that employee up for success. What was your best day at work in the last 3 months? You want to find out someone's strengths? Ask that question. Because remember, a strength isn't just something you do well. A strength is something that strengthens you to do it again and again and again. So if you want to get obliquely, because if you just say to someone, what's your strength? I mean, it's very hard to answer. Many of us are so close to, we're like the New Yorker who no longer hears the sirens or the horns. You're so close to your own strengths, you take them for granted, don't you? So ask someone, what's your best day at work in the last 3 months? What were you doing? Why did you love it? Of course, the corollary to that, how can you repeat it? To know about a person's weaknesses, flip the question around. What was your worst day at work in the last 3 months? What were you doing? Why did it drain on you as much as it did? How can we avoid it? Because remember, a weakness isn't just something you don't do well. You may actually do some things quite well that are weaknesses. Why? Because they weaken you. They frustrate you or bore you or drain you. For triggers, try this one. What was the best manager relationship you've ever had? Or the follow-up, what made it so good? You'll learn a lot about what that manager did with the person to be able to get them to accelerate and deploy their strengths so effectively. What was the best manager relationship you ever had? How about this one? What was the best recognition you ever had? I don't know, maybe you know that answer to all the people that you work with, but if you don't, ask it. Otherwise you might be giving out plaques to people that are endlessly out-plaqued. They had enough plaques the time you gave them the first one. What was the best recognition you had? Whatever made it so good. And in terms of style of learning, try this one. It's pretty straightforward. When in your career did you learn the most? Why? What was happening? How were you learning? Is the chief responsibility of a leader. Do they set the values? Do they define the vision? Do they ensure the integrity of the organization? What's the job of a leader? Well, from all the research that I've been a part of, I would narrow it down to this. The job of a leader is this: to rally people to a better future. To rally people to a better future. And the key two words, I suppose, in that definition are better future. If you are a leader, and many of you, I'm sure, are in this room, that's why you're here, or at one of the downlink sites, it's why you came. But if you are a leader, it's because you are deeply, deeply optimistic. You see the present and you see what could be, you see the future, and the friction between the what could be and the what is drives you on and spurs you forward. You're a deeply, deeply optimistic person. I'm not suggesting you're a naive idealist. I mean, most of the most effective executives I've talked to are willing to look at the present reality right in the eye. In stressing optimism, nor am I suggesting that every great leader has a perennially sunny disposition. Some of them are in good moods all the time, but some of them aren't. And some of them, like Winston Churchill and Abraham Lincoln, even struggle with depression. My point in emphasizing optimism is simply that no matter how bleak the present or how bleak their mood, they never let their innate optimism that things can get better become deflated and overwhelmed.